G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report as always, video today, proudly sponsored by the Hit Company. Thank you very much for being on board. Let's talk boxing. So, yesterday it was reported by ID Boxing. Now it is just reported that there was potential talks underway for Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder to take place in 2023, which obviously this year, the back end of this year, in the Middle East. Now this kind of sachets into another topic I want to talk about, which is the potential, because Wilder, we all know, was at the Jake Paul Tommy Fury event. Now, for me, I couldn't really, well, of course, if you wanted to go to it just for entertainment reasons, yeah, fine, fair enough. But it just seemed strange to me that he was there in the Middle East, especially alongside, well, not alongside, but there with Tyson Fury. And we're hearing people, we heard mentions of Fury Wilder 4 a couple of weeks ago. I think I speak for everyone when I say I don't want to see that fight. For me, there's no fight that's acceptable for Fury or Usyk other than themselves. And Anthony Joshua versus Wilder, well, that's fine. That's a great fight. And I'd like to see it. You know, Joshua obviously has to get through Jermaine Franklin. And obviously Wilder, well, we don't really know what the story is with him, because with Andy Ruiz, he had the eliminator against Hrgovic lined up. You know, he could have went through with a purse bid if he wanted. He's no longer with Tom Brown, but is still in an advisory role with Al Heyman. So he's still working with Al Heyman, basically as an advisor. But in terms of promotion-wise, I mean, it's anybody's game. So that fight there for Wilder is still potentially there, because obviously he's not gone through with the purse bid for the Hrgovic fight. So you would imagine it'd be Wilder versus Ruiz next, because it's the only way either guy is going to get a guaranteed crack at a world title, you would think, is to fight each other. The winner fights the winner of Fury Usyk. But just the fact that there's talk of AJ versus Wilder, I mean, that fight, lads, we want to see that fight. We want to see that. If that fight happens this year, take my money. I think it'd be a great fight, and I still think it has that appeal to the casual market. It obviously doesn't have the appeal that it did, say, a couple of years ago when both guys were undefeated, both guys were champions. But two big hitting heavyweights like that, it is going to appeal 100%. In terms of Wilder versus Fury, I mean, for me, it just wouldn't be right for Wilder to get... It wouldn't be right for Fury to fight anyone other than Alexander Usyk, as far as I'm concerned. And vice versa for Alexander Usyk, you know. He can't get away with it either, because if he went and just decided, I'm going to rematch Joshua again or whatever, I'd be saying the exact same thing. I'm like, no. Undisputed is there. Let's get it over the line. So, for me, no other fight will do for either man. So I hope to God one of the reasons Deontay Wilder was out there in the Middle East was not to try and arrange a Tyson Fury 4 fight. Good Lord. I know with Wilder, he always has that power. So you could look at it and say, well, Fury should win. I mean, he's beaten him realistically 3 times. The first time it was a BS decision. But realistically, he's beaten him 3 times. He should do it again. With Fury Wilder, you get the impression if they fought 10 times, I'd say Wilder would win at the very least 2. So you never know. He has that power. Wilder is someone who you just... I mean, he nearly won the 3rd fight. He had Fury down twice in that, was it the 4th round? And when Fury looked up at the referee when he got dropped the 2nd time in that round, it was a look of... And I'm telling you now, this is what it was. People can say, oh no, it wasn't. It was. It was a look of, do I want to be here? Do I even want to get up at this point? Now, he did, and he went through, and he knocked out Deontay Wilder in, I think it was the 11th round. But nevertheless, the fact that he had that look kind of said to me that he's thinking about things as well, in terms of, what do I really want? Do I really want to keep going at this? Now, I think with Fury, it's just the big money fights. That's all he seems to want. You know, he talks about legacy this, legacy that, but then he says some absolutely ridiculous things, like saying Usyk's not in the same era as him. Absolutely. It's like, Usyk turned pro at the same time as Anthony Joshua. Obviously not on the same date, but roughly they were, about a month or two apart in terms of when they turned pro. So how the hell he's not in the same era as you is just BS, you know. And, you know, other things as well. Like, I'm the only guy to have, you know, been world heavyweight champion and had a trilogy with guys. It's like Muhammad Ali had a trilogy with Joe Frazier and Ken Norton. Just chucking that out there, you know, just chucking that out there. He did. So, you know, with him, he can talk about legacy all he wants, but it seems like for him, it's just the big money fights. That's all he's looking at. You know, Ngannou, they're still talking about that. I mean, it's just, I don't know what's going on. And, you know, for me, we're now in the month of March. Today is the 1st of March, all right? Realistically, we're getting into the kind of time where we need to see an announcement on Fury Usyk sooner rather than later. And I think that's legit. We need to see it sooner rather than later. Because to be honest with you, I would say another fortnight, you can kiss that April 29th date goodbye. Not in terms of kissing the fight goodbye, but that proposed date, I would say you'd kiss that goodbye. Because a fight of this magnitude, you're going to want to market the you-know-what out of it. You're going to want to have a good build-up, a long build-up. You're going to want to let it get a lot of PR, a lot of marketing stuff out there. You're going to want to have documentaries, etc. You're going to want to sell the you-know-what out of this fight. That's what you're going to want to do. And you're not going to be able to do it to as an effective manner if we only have, say, 5-6 weeks before fight week. It's just not going to go. It's not going to fly. You need a good 2 to 2.5 months of prep PR to get all this marketed. And the longer we go into March, the less likely it's going to seem that it's going to happen. Certainly at the end of April. I really don't know. I really don't know what's going on with this. I mean, you've seen Warren with, I can't remember his name, Alexander Usyk's promoter. You've seen him at the Emirates with him a couple of weeks ago. And we've heard absolutely zilch since. You know, I kind of imagined that we probably wouldn't have got an announcement at the Fury Paul fight, but you would have thought we'd have some hints to it. We haven't heard absolutely zilch. And again, the longer we go into the month of March, the more unlikely it is we're going to get that fight in April. You know, I mean, I do remember Frank Warren, or was it John? It was someone in Team Fury who said Usyk or no Usyk could be fighting April 29th at Wembley. I mean, that's a worry because there's no opponent even. Well, Joe Joyce has a fight lined up. It's the only person realistically you could think of if it's not like a money grab with Ngannou, which I won't accept that. And I still won't accept Deontay Wilder. They're the only two you could think about. And I won't accept either of them for Tyson Fury, if I'm honest. You know, people can say, well, gee, you'll accept Wilder or AJ. Well, yeah, because both guys are on the comeback. Both guys are looking to get world title shots. It's a big fight. Neither guy has a title, so why shouldn't they be fighting one another? But when you have a title and someone else has the rest of the titles, there's no mandatory obligations, people want to see this fight, why aren't you getting this fight over the line? Especially when one guy is being vocal and saying, you know, Belay, where are you, Belay? As Usyk does. Why aren't we getting this? Why are we even hearing talk of Fury versus Wilder? Why are we even hearing talk of Fury versus Ngannou? Why aren't we just hearing Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury, we're going to get it on? They've been talking about this fight for months now. Months. I mean, you go back and look at articles the week after Usyk beat Joshua, and you hear, like, you know, 50-50 Saudi Arabia Super Bowl weekend. That's back in August. It's March. And we're none the wiser to seeing what's happening with this fight. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So, Joshua Wilder, all for it. Wilder Joshua 4, Wilder Fury 4, hell no. I mean, at the very least, let Wilder earn that title shot. At the very least. You know, fight Andy Ruiz and become mandatory challenger. You know, I mean, the WBC have done that with Wilder. You know, I remember the Malik Scott fight. That was the eliminator that got him the crack at Bermain Stavern. That was a fairly easy touch, to be fair. Malik Scott, there was a lot more viable heavyweights out there that they could have put him in there with as a final eliminator. We all know the stuff surrounding the Malik Scott, and obviously he's his trainer now, but we all know kind of the talk around what happened and the manner of the knockout in the Malik Scott fight. So, a bit of a rant on the Fury Usyk situation. I just want to get this fight over the line. What is the problem? That's what I'd like to know. What is the actual problem? Fights that appear to be over the line, which now have been postponed. So Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, May the 20th. That fight has now been postponed. Amanda Serrano was pulled out due to an injury. And can I be honest with you? I'm not surprised that she's pulled out with an injury because I tell you why. That fight she had at the start of February was a tough fight. For me, having seen the fight she was in, I was looking at the May 20th date thinking, right, well, that's going to be ambitious that you're going to be, recover from that fight, go straight back into camp, and be able to fight come what May the 20th, at least to the best of your ability, after, having a very tough fight in the month of February. I'm not necessarily saying the injury isn't legit, it may very well be, but maybe she feels as though she needs more time. And maybe as well, the Crow Park situation gives them a bit more time, Eddie Hearn and the GAA. Although the GAA, I've said it once, I'll say it again, they won't do you any favours, Eddie. So if you're watching this video, like, the GAA are one of the GAA are a disgraceful, despicable organisation. They really are. So they ain't going to do him or Katie Taylor or anyone any favours. I'll just throw that out there. But you never know, maybe a bit more time to negotiate, we can see. So they're probably going to move this fight. I know Chantel Cameron's name has been mentioned, but she's even said not going to happen. She'd love it, but she said it's not going to happen. So we're waiting to see what the situation is. Will they just reschedule the Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight? You see, the problem is, right, if you go into the summer months, you're hitting in with the GAA season. You're hitting in with the football and hurling. I think it ends come what, July, thereabouts. So you'd be looking at an August date, August, September. Now, August in Ireland is normally quite nice. Normally, still pretty bright in the evenings. You get brightest to about 10, no, maybe a bit earlier, but 9 or 10 anyway. So, it might not be bad. September, depends. Can be hit and miss September. But August is normally quite good. So we'll wait and see what the story is with Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, what's happening there. Adrian Broner, as I said, he's now a free agent, having split from BLK before even making his debut with them. So BLK Prime, they seem to be what, Triller 2.0, in a sense of they are putting on fights with one named fighter and another fighter that we know of, but not really is in the same league. Your Crawford Avanesian is a good example. And they're paying fighters an enormous amount of money, more than certainly that fight's worth. And they're somehow expecting to make a profit on it. Like, I never saw... Look, I love seeing fighters get paid, but from a business point of view, you got to look at that and just think, how the hell... how do you plan to turn a profit? Paying guys crazy amounts of money and you're not going to recoup even close to it. Triller were like that. And some people have said they've got out of boxing, others have said that they haven't. They certainly haven't done a show since Kovalev versus Pulev last year. Now, they haven't done a show since then. So, I don't know what the crack is with Triller. But BLK, I mean, I ain't say they're going anywhere. I seen Ade talk about the potential of Adrian Broner versus Conor Benn. And for me, like, they've been talking about Conor Benn versus Adrian Broner since, I think, Fight Camp 2021. And... I'll touch on the Conor Benn statement that he released later on in this video, but let's just say hypothetically he does fight him in America or in Australia, because we don't know what the situation is still with the British Boxing Board of Control and Conor Benn's license, or fighting on a foreign license. We don't know if that's going to fly. Certainly in the UK, we just don't know that yet. But in terms of him versus Broner, if it did potentially happen, I mean, Broner at this stage, Broner lost, although he got the decision. But look at his last fight. He lost to a janitor. And I think that was what that guy's profession was, a janitor. Broner has looked awful for the last decade, in truth. Like, the last 10 years, Broner has looked absolutely shocking. He has a lot of stuff that goes on in his personal life. He's just been an absolute train wreck. It's been remarkable, really, to watch. But Broner at this stage, I mean, realistically, you put him in there with any top 20 welterweight, and chances are he's going to lose. Broner was at his best probably when he was down at 130 to 135. At welterweight, it's just, even 140, and especially now, it's just like, nah. WBO have ordered Terence Crawford to defend his WBO World Welterweight title against Alexis Roach. Parties have 20 days, only until March 19th. To agree a deal and a purse bid. So Crawford obviously has been talking about potentially, well, actually I should say Oscar De La Hoya has been talking about potentially having Crawford go over to Golden Boy. There's been talk of Golden Boy and Crawford. That might make the Spence fight a bit more likely, especially considering the fact that Golden Boy and PBC have been able to work together in collaboration with DAZN and Showtime to put on Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis. So maybe Crawford is looking at that and thinking, okay, if I have a promoter like Golden Boy, are they the powerhouse that they were a couple of years ago when they had Canelo and people like that? No, but they've got a good network in DAZN. They have good fighters, like Virgil Ortiz Jr. I mean, that's a very good fight, him and Crawford in of itself. So Golden Boy have a little bit of sway there. Maybe he feels it's easier with Golden Boy than it will be with Bob Arum, because Bob Arum, although he's worked with PBC before, it's a rarity. He worked with him on Crawford's last fight, which was against Sean Porter, and obviously the Tyson Fury fight. Well, the first fight, Fury wasn't with Top Rank, and then the next two were mandated. Obviously the rematch was ordered, and then obviously the arbitration hearing, so they had no choice. They had to work together. But for the most part, Bob Arum has avoided PBC like the plague. Whereas Golden Boy, DAZN, there we go. They've put on a fight. Well, it hasn't officially happened yet, but Garcia versus Tank, it's going to happen. It's going to be a joint pay-per-view. There you go. And that fight in of itself is brilliant. You cannot... I don't know how any boxing fan can't be happy that Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis is happening. I can't wait for it personally. I'm looking forward to it so much. I really am. I'm really, really excited for it. Now, Conor Benn released a very lengthy statement. Now, I'm not going to read the whole statement verbatim, and the only reason I say I'm not going to read the whole statement verbatim is because I like midweek reports to be about 20 minutes. I don't want it to start going into the half-hour mark. So there was a few things I took from it. I made a few little notes on it, and there was a few little things that I took from it. The egg thing is basically what the WBC... Conor Benn is reportedly saying here in this that the egg, basically claiming it was eggs, is from the WBC. Right? That's how they basically came to the conclusion. So people, having a go with Conor Benn and saying he wants extra eggs on his Domino's pizza and stuff like that, and exciting. It's more the WBC who came to that conclusion. Now, I don't know how they would have, especially if Conor Benn is because he said in April 2022 that he was mainly on a vegan diet. So eggs wouldn't be a staple of his diet. Obviously, I mean, there's exceptions, but I don't know how they'd come to that. And apparently you'd need to eat a lot of them. So I don't know what way the WBC figured that out. I really just don't know. The whole thing is a strange one. I do wonder, will Benn still decide to go ahead with suing the British Boxing Board of Control? Will the British Boxing Board of Control still insist on doing their own investigation, even with the fact that the WBC have said A-OK? The situation is very interesting. Now, Conor Benn has actually come out, well, on Instagram, he put up a picture of him and Eubank Jr. saying unfinished business. Now, I really don't see the point in putting that post up, because I'll tell you why. For two reasons. One, Eubank Jr. is coming off the back of a loss. That fight, if they did do it, I don't think it wouldn't have the same pull as it did if it happened in October. I know with the name value, Eubank versus Benn, but Eubank's just lost pretty badly to Liam Smith, and I think that's knocked his stock massively. And as well as that, he's contractually obliged to fight Liam Smith again, and he has activated the rematch clause. So if he goes and fights Liam Smith and he gets iced again, I mean, that fight is really kind of that's just... nah. I mean, a lot of people were kind of saying it was a bit of a gimmick fight even then, before the whole failed drugs test thing. But now, especially if he goes and fights Liam Smith and he gets iced again, that's really kind of... that's going to fall flat, I think. Now, no sooner did I talk about Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, the Daily Star Sports have actually reported. Tyson Fury talks with Alexander Usyk are reportedly still at an impasse with no deal yet. It's claimed there is still hope of a breakthrough for the undisputed heavyweight world title fight on April the 29th, but the clock is ticking. As I literally just said, the longer we go into March, probably within the next 10 days, if there's no deal, it ain't happening on the 29th of March. Not to say it won't happen at all, but 29th of March, I can't see that happening. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that out of the blue, we just get it. Boom, there it is. and happy out. Everyone's happy, but I can't. I don't know. I really don't know what the story is with this. In terms of fights that have been announced and that are good and I am looking forward to, and that are unifications, Inoue versus Fulton. So they will meet in Japan on May the 23rd. Really, really like that fight. Fulton versus Inoue. I'm a massive fan of this fight. I think it's going to be fantastic. The blend of styles is going to be very, very good. I just can't see anything other than an Inoue win. I know this is going to be his first fight and all. Up at this weight, it is a new weight for him. He's never fought at super bantamweight before. This is a guy who's moved up from light flyweight was where he started at. Light flyweight of all weights. I still just see Inoue having too much. It's not just the fact that he can hit hard. He's tremendously talented. He really is. He is a tremendously talented fighter. He really is. So I love this fight. I'm making Inoue favourite. I really am. Before we finish up, I want to talk about a fight that I think it's shameful that it's not been picked up by a major network in the UK. I mean, Sky, DAZN, BT, flipping Box Nation could have even picked this up, or Channel 5 or someone like that. I think it's crazy that this fight isn't getting picked up. And it's on this weekend. It's on this Saturday up in Newcastle. O'Hara Davis versus Lewis Ritson. O'Hara Davis versus Lewis Ritson. Thomas Patrick Ward on the undercard. Lee McGregor, who hasn't been in the ring since February last year, where he actually got a draw against who did he fight? He just got a win actually on, I think it was on a Matchroom show. Diego Alberto Ruiz. Yeah, he just beat up Gamal Yafai in his last fight. That was who Lee McGregor last fought. And these guys are fighting, Lewis Ritson and O'Hara Davis, in Newcastle on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 4th of March. It's only going to be shown on Fight TV, which is sad because this is such a good fight. Lewis Ritson, it's sad because not a lot of people are talking about it. Lewis Ritson versus O'Hara Davis is a great fight. I've seen some people on Twitter were saying, could it be a bit like Jack Catterall versus O'Hara Davis? I don't think so. One, because Lewis Ritson doesn't fight like Jack Catterall. Jack Catterall and O'Hara Davis, I had a fear. I remember that fight. Well, I don't want to remember it because it was horrible, but I remember going into that fight thinking that has the recipe for disaster, that fight, because both guys tend to kind of keep it at range, southpaw orthodox, both guys can punch a bit, both guys don't want to take an L. They're not, it's not that they have a lot to lose, it was still at domestic level, but O'Hara Davis has already lost and Jack Catterall is strong, and I was kind of that could be a bit, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was even worse. Because both guys didn't do anything the whole fight. Both guys literally left that ring after 12 rounds without a scratch on their face. So I remember thinking at the time, Jesus. I remember who was on the I think it was Zelfa Barrett versus Leon Woodstock was the main event. It was after midnight again they went on. That fight really just dragged. It really was. In terms of Ritson's not like Jack Catterall. He's a lot more. He looks to go in for the kill. He throws a lot more shots. His punching power at 140 hasn't seemed the same as it was at 135. I remember when he was fighting with Matchroom and Sky, they tried to sell him as, what was it, the Newcastle Golovkin or something like that, or the T-side Golovkin or something like that. It was some name they gave him, or the lightweight Golovkin or something like that. And I was like, Jesus, that's hype. That's crazy. Because Ritson was just bigger than these guys. And at that time at lightweight, domestic level was garbage. You had Robbie Davis. No, not Robbie Davis Jr. You had there was a Robbie, some can't remember his name. You had Scotty Cardle, who was shot to pieces, and he had someone else. It wasn't great lightweight at domestic level back in 2017, 2018. It wasn't great at all. And Lewis Ritson teared through them, went up to European level, lost, went to 140. Did not look impressive at all at 140. He lost to Ponce nearly 2 years ago. He's been on the comeback trail since then. And, it's a crossroads fight, O'Hara Davis versus Lewis Ritson, because O'Hara Davis, although he's not lost since the Jack Catterall fight, he's done very little since then. And he should have had a loss against Miguel Vasquez. Miguel Vasquez was horribly robbed. That might have been the robbery of 2019. Seriously, Miguel Vasquez won the fight. O'Hara Davis even acknowledged that after the fight. It was like, yeah, you won this fight, but I got, the nod. It was Ian John Lewis as well. someone who has a history of scoring fights very poor. He was the acting referee for that fight, and he scored that fight quite widely, as if I remember, to O'Hara Davis, which was complete BS. We all know that. And Ian John Lewis, as a referee, I think he's an okay referee. He has moments where he lets himself down a bit, but as a judge, he's terrible. He's awful. He's so he's a bit like Terry O'Connor. He'll always just give the home fighter more credit. Sometimes they could be getting completely outboxed, and you hear Ian John Lewis's scorecard, you're just like, what were you watching? You know, even if he gave it to the right guy, you're just like, that's too close. Crazy close. You know? So that's O'Hara Davis versus Lewis Ritson. Personally, if I have to pick on this fight, I'm not going to do a prediction video, but my pick would be O'Hara Davis to win this fight. I'm going to go with O'Hara Davis on points, or possibly late stoppage. But I think O'Hara Davis isn't going to do anything at world level. He's not. I mean, there was a time where I think we all bought into that. Well, I'll hold my hands up, I did. I bought into the hype with O'Hara Davis back many years ago now. It doesn't seem like that, but it was many years ago now. And I thought he'd do very well. I mean, he could probably pick up a European title, but that's probably the height of it. You look at the guys at world level at 140 pounds, Subriel Matias, Teofimo Lopez. He's already got battered by Josh Taylor. Who else? Regis Prograis, Jose Zepeda. It's like he is not even going to put a glove. Could you imagine Subriel Matias versus O'Hara Davis, or Lewis Ritson for that matter? He'd absolutely flatten both guys. He'd walk straight through them. So I don't see either guy going on to world level and having any great success, but it really is a fight where neither guy can afford a loss at this stage, and especially kind of at this level. Different if it was, we'll say, a Subriel Matias. Well, then you'd say, like, oh, you lost to a very, very good fighter. A fighter who, without that world title, he'd have trouble getting fights in that division, because he's a big puncher. He throws a lot of punches, and he goes in for the jugular. No one wants to fight, but doesn't bring any name value. So you'd say, like, that's fine. But at this, you could argue this is domestic level dust up. Well, it is. The loser, it's going to be a long road back. That's what I'll say. Look forward to seeing it. I just wish it would be shown on a major network in the UK, because I think it's a good fight and it deserves that, truth be told. So, little rant about O'Hara Davis versus Lewis Ritson not being on a major network. I like this fight. I want to watch it on Saturday and do a review of it, of course. And I think that's pretty much that. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Back to doing these on a Wednesday, because I missed them on a Wednesday. I miss doing these on a Wednesday. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. If you could, as always, smash the like button. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. I'll talk to you as always. Peace.